Welcome back, everybody. OkFixer here, and we're working on the Beetle again. Another long and boring video of the Volkswagen. We're going to be doing some wiring here. First thing I'm going to wire is my radio. So I have to find out which wires go where. So I have some back here under that box, and then I have some up front also, and we'll have to put the meter on them and find out which are which, and we'll get those soldered on there. Before I bore you to tears, I got my soldering iron heating up there and a lamp in there and a train on the Gittner for you. There you go. And before I I don't know where that went to. Well, anyways, I wanted to show you my door handle. It came back from train for you. You know, I almost want to stop this video and just start all over again. I'm not gonna though, because it's just so ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous. Hey, so what we have here is in your, and it's better than just throw it away. Your manual for your stereo tells you which are which, and which is quite cool is the white and the gray are front speakers, and the green and the purple are rear speakers. But if you have a Kenwood, a Sanyo, a Onkyo, a whatever you have, those wires are the same. They've Japaneseized or something or other like that. They've kind of melded all into the same, so they don't have different colors, and it's kind of nice. It shows here the red and the yellow. One goes to the ignition switch, and one goes to your all-the-time power. But I'm doing them all-the-time power so I can listen to the radio without turning the key on. Because when you turn the key on in this, it burns up your points. If you leave it on without it running. Or it can. Or I do it this way to all my cars anyway. So black, of course, is the ground. And then it's got some wacky wires from some other stuff, like for powered speakers or amplifiers or electric antenna, that kind of stuff. You're not going to have to worry about those. So we're just mainly worrying about the yellow and red, and then I think we've already got those soldered on there, and that's done. And the black's already grounded. That's done. All we got to do is speaker wire. So the white and the gray are left and right, and the green and purple are left and right rear. Front, rear, that is. And so you understand that. So we'll sort through this and start the boring process of soldering. Before we start soldering, I got this in the mail today. He keyed it to my key, and there you go. And it's a beautiful unit. It works really well. Now, $20 for the handle, $28 to have it keyed. So nearly $50 for handle keyed. So you might want to look at, if you get a Volkswagen, keys are important. No car in Oklahoma comes with titles or keys, title or keys. So so you have to take that into consideration, because you know Billy Bob has rolled the title into a blunt and smoked it, and then wore the keys out, picking the earwigs out of his ears or something. I don't know. So take that in consideration when you put one of these together. So, but $48 is it is what it is. It's for something that you don't have. If I was to get a new door handle for that, and it was keyed, how much would it cost? It's comparable, you know, $48. So yeah, anyways, okay, on to wiring. Okay, here's our wires from our back. Now, label them front, rear. If you tie a knot in one of them, you know it's the left hand. I'm left-handed, so that's important. Wait a moment, another clue. What's that? Two of those have knots in them. They probably go to the front. That would be my suggestion. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to grab one. I've tied a knot in one. That's the left. Of course, they're in the rear, so of course that's the left rear. We're using logic here, but for those of you who visited this dispensary about 10 times today, you can label them. So we have the good old-fashioned analog micronta that Brother Brian put together and gave to me a long time ago. I still have it. I'm going to use that to read our ohmage on it and see if we have the right wires. I like it because it has long ones, long leads. You don't have to read both wires. All you have to do is read one. Find the one with the yeah on it. The white stripe. And then come over here, and since you think these are front, we'll try this. Oh, look at that. First off. First hit of the day. Look at that. Look at that. What do you know about that? Okay, so what we'll do here is we need to mark that. Get my tape again. Okay, so logic dictates that this one here is going to be our right side. It would be funny if I got a reading on that one too. Like, what in the hell is going on here? So this should be. And indeed it is. How do you see that? Probably not. Okay. Okay, since you understand that process, we're going to wire them up to those to the harness that came off that radio. I'll try not to kick you. Again, I'm using 6040 rosin core, and it's real lead. So those of you in California, I'm sorry. So make sure that your heat shrink is on first. Double check your wires. And this soldering iron, I apologize, it's not so fast. Little blob there on the bottom, that'll drop off. That's tinned up pretty good. And I've written in my book, the negative is the striped wire, because the negative is the striped wire in the stereo. So, why confuse the system by making it backwards. There you go. Lob off there. You can use wire connectors or whatever you want to do, but I like soldering. Soldering and heat shrink seem to be a more permanent way to put things together. I guess Volkswagen used push-on terminals and crimp-on terminals for ease of whatever. They seem to work pretty good though. Sorry if I bumped you. Okay, this is our dedicated ground, and I have just one wire here of the two dedicated grounds, and this is going to those cigarette lighter outlets, which are for, you can run a GPS or whatever. When I do heat shrink, I like doing two of them. Two pieces. Put one on top of another, kind of a double. Here's our other dedicated ground right here. And I just folded it back on itself, and now I'm just going to put a piece of heat shrink on it, and I'm going to shove it back in that hole there. When I get done soldering all these, I'll show you. I'll just shove them all back in that hole. And this shouldn't come off. Alright, to heat shrink on the other ones, and we'll work on one at a time is what I'm working on, kind of. If you get mixed up, you can always put a little reminder on. That's the left, so it's correct. You get the right wire. What does it matter? Positive and negative. Yes, it does. It does matter. Positive and negative. I'll show you in another video. But if you run your speakers backwards, they'll be all sucking in instead of pushing the sound out, and you'll have really terrible sound. And a lot of people don't know that, but I'll show you. I'll show you how to make sure everything's running right with the battery. Just 1.5 volt on your speakers, I'll show you. Okay, let's get that tidied up, and then I'll show you. We're going to tuck that all in. If you notice, there's 3 blue tagged wires, well, 1 brown tagged wire. Those are the extras on the radio, antenna, amplifier, and stuff like that. We're going to double check our work and make sure everything's right. I've marked in my book on the VW, the white stripe is negative. They are all correct. And now I can go about shoving them all back in this hole. Easier said than done, probably. So, we get those in there. Maybe. Probably have to do them one at a time. The positive here, I'm leaving out. And that way I can disconnect it in the event that something catastrophic might arrive. So, I don't know what that might be arriving, but you never know. And it's good to have an out, so you're not ripping wires out of there you can just unplug it. But if something catastrophic did happen, the wires would be all melted anyways, so it doesn't matter. Okay, let's get those tucked in. There, have those all tucked out of the way, and we'll work on that a little bit more later when I kind of get everything all put together. I'll arrange the wires a little bit. Right now I'm going to crimp on a female connector, and it's going to go on here. And this is for the steering column. My brother told me that I said that the horn is hot all the time, and it's not. It doesn't blow unless the key's on. Essentially, I meant when the engine's running and the key's on, the horn's hot all the time, and there's a hot wire going to it. It only grounds when you hit the button. This is going to go inside here. This little grommet, if I can get it in this little grommet. Yes, I can. And then it's going to come up through here, through this side, on the other side of the firewall, kind of like beep, okay? And then it plugs into, it will plug into this, which is the ground for the horn. So, yeah, that's going to be just dedicated to the horn, so that's the only thing that's going in there. So I can fix that wire up. All right, let's get her through there, and we'll get it. Let me see if I can show you a little better. It's going right. That green wire right there. There we go. Okay, so let's get it up through that hole, and we'll put another crimp on it, connector on it, and we'll put it in that connection. Okay, this is take 2 on this because I had to take my steering column off. Yeah, evidently, and I don't know why, I looked at everything. I took things apart one piece by one piece, and my steering column was grounded. So now it is not. Let's see. Oh, that's the wire going down to the, I have the wire on the ground on the horn, and of course it has continuity here. We had cut off this section of this connector and put some heat shrink on that, and that's what that looks like now. That's the connector. It's going down through here. It's a green wire coming out and going to the steering column. And so if I ground this and then I go up to my steering column and I touch the wire coming out of the steering column to ground, or to the steering column, it should sound. Okay. So everything's okay there. When I hooked it up before, it just sounded all the time. Ironically, through this, and I'd love to show you this. And we will put it on times 10. So this is the 10,000 ohm scale, I think. Pulse back. Okay. And of course, if I go directly to ground, we should be golden. Yes. Okay, we're golden. Right there to ground. Okay. Now, but when I go to the steering column, I get this. No, that's to ground. That's to ground. When I go to the steering column, I get this. Do you see that raise? Do you see that raise? Now, when I disconnect the steering column from the little rubber bumper here that I bought at Wolfsburg West, there's nothing goes through it. Now, I've taken this directly off the steering box, and I can take one side to the other, and there is resistance going through it. It's not an open loop. It should be an open loop because it's rubber, for God's sakes. But as I was explaining to my brother that physics do not apply in my garage. Okay, when you let something go, it might drop to the ground, it might stay in the air spinning around. You just never know. So evidently in my garage, rubber is conductive. Isn't that wonderful? So, but it's not, you know, if I go like this, it's not going to give enough. It makes it move just slightly, very slightly. But how come there's resistance going through there and it's not an open loop? Why is that? And I've taken this all apart. There's nothing touching. You see that? Look. There's nothing touching. Nothing. Those bolts or washers are not touching anything. It's just rubber. That is perplexing. But it's not, I don't think it's enough that it's going to cause the horn to blow all the time. So there's that. Okay, we're just checking our work. Now, of course, in my garage, since physics do not apply, it doesn't matter, you know, that we hook up all these wires or not. Well, it will matter. Captain Obvious says that if you don't hook the wires up, the angry pixies cannot miracle themselves to the device. Okay, so you have to take one gremlin out of the equation. Now, do I hope any of this works? Oh, none of this stuff is going to work. Come on, give me a break. But you have to have the wires hooked to it to move forward. Okay, you have to. Maybe if I roll it out of the garage and it's out of the twilight zone here, or the ancient Indian burial ground that this house is built on, it'll probably work. So I don't know. That's our horn. I'm going to put everything back together and I'm going to test it again. I have the bolt out of the column there I need to put in, and the turn signal as well. But I went right down the line, took the turn signal off and seen if that was grounding, and then I disconnected all the wires and see if one of those was grounding, and then I took that off and seen if it was grounding, and then all of a sudden I lost, when I took that rubber biscuit off, I lost my continuity. Okay, so all of a sudden the steering column become isolated. So the little rubber biscuit is what was causing us to have a continual ground. Yeah, I know. I don't know. Let's move on, okay? Before I get wore out on this one. Okay, I have one wire of our meter hooked there. I have it in this ohm scale, and I'm pretty close to zeroed. I'm going to ground this here. There we go. Or right to that wire, so I'm zeroed. Now I'm going to touch a ground, the body ground, and I get that. See, because that's what's going through that column. Now I understand that 10,000 and 1,000 ohms is a lot, and it's probably not going to make a difference. But listen to this on continuity. Okay, here's our continuity ring. Come on. There she is. Now when I ground it, listen to this. You can hear it scratching. But I don't think that's going to be enough to make a difference. But I still don't, I'm perplexed because we're rubber mounted here, and we are. I've checked. We are. All right. And we are rubber mounted here. And I have the turn signal off. I have all the wires disconnected to this ignition switch, and we're rubber mounted here. And I'm not touching the. I don't have the screws in for the steering column. So the steering column is being grounded somehow through this rubber biscuit. If you can believe it. I just don't. I don't have a solution for you guys. I do not. I don't know why there's ohms going through there. It should be an open loop, and it's not. So it doesn't. I don't think it'll have enough to blow the horn all the time. I don't think so. It won't have a ground good enough to blow the horn all the time. So I'm going to leave it at that. And boy, if you guys have a solution, I'd like to hear it, because I don't have one for that. I'm just going to leave it as it is, and I believe it'll work fine. But why is there resistance through that? Like it should be. It should be open. Don't know. Puzzler. Okay, next, when I hooked up all my ignition wires that I took off, I seen this little wire right here, and when you power the ignition, it sends a signal to the engine, 12 volts to the coil and such, and that's what these are for. This is a hot wire, and Captain Obvious tells me it goes there. This is the oil light, and then the generator. The center one is for turn signals. Your oil light and your generator light are both grounds, and that's hot when you turn the ignition on. And then because there is no generating going on or no oil pressure, those are grounded. So those two wires I brought up out of our harness over here that I added on right here, and I have them draping over. And let's have a look at the fossil evidence, because I don't remember. Oh, looky there. Somebody who was wise and intelligent and smart and gracious and stop, okay, decided that it would be a good idea to take a little piece of the original wire and attach it to the new wire. So I have a blue one on a blue, and then I have a blue and green. So let's go over here. Here is our ignition switch, and right there, let's see if I can point to this. Right here, this wire right here is definitely going to that. And if we're looking at this, the right one is the green and blue. So it will be the left one because we're looking backwards. So oil light is going to be green and blue, and of course that leaves just the blue one for the generator. So let's get those hooked up. Okay, next I want to wire the light of the back of the speedometer, and this is also attaches to the fuel gauge. This is that gray and white wire that's coming out of the light switch. It does have a connection, but the fuel gauge was originally grounded. Here's the little PIMCA they gave me. Incidentally, I think that has an LED in it. And black is going to be our ground, and our white is going to be our hot wire on that. Or you can do this light bulb. You can do it any way you want to. So let's get that in order, and I'll show you when I get done. I crimped on a terminal and put a little heat shrink over it, and that's going to the light on the gas gauge back there. The ground I left open because I'm going to come across another something that's going to need to be grounded, and I can tie them together. It's not going to take a lot of ground. And then that wire goes on the back of the speedometer. Next, let's have a look at these wires coming out of the turn signal here. Yeah, quite a collection coming out of the turn signal. Let's see if we can't get those hooked up to something. Okay, our green, black, and white wire go to 49A on the flasher, and then there's a jumper off this, and it goes to K, to the switch that you pull out for the emergency. We have a green and black, and then we have a black and white. So the green and black, I believe, is for the right side. And there's going to be a three-way connection right here, green and black, and it's going to go three-way, and it's going to come up to VR on the flasher, and then it's going to connect to your right front and your right left. So the right left is coming out of that loom that I fixed, and here is what's left of the loom that I pulled out of the 69. So we'll have to add a little bit to it, but it'll probably work just fine. So let's get that all in order. Told you this is boring. I've made up a little turn signal harness for my right side. These are going out to the turn signal. Of course, this is the parking light, this is the turn signal, the ground is separate. I think so. And then this will attach to the turn signal switch, green and black. I know there's some white on there, but I'm just trying to use what Volkswagen wire I can. This will attach to VR, which is right side for the turn signal. This will go to the black and white, which will be the right side rear. And then I used a little heat shrink, and I haven't addressed this wire yet for the parking light. We're just working on our turn signal. So let's install this. Here's our harness, and it's going back to the turn signal. There's a nice little original VW connector. That's why I used that. This is going to VR, right? This is going off to the right side, and it's connecting, of course, to the right side rear. And miraculously, somebody heat shrunk a piece of original black and white wire on there, so I know that's what that one is for. And the other one being green and black, I believe somebody had miraculously also heat shrunk another piece of wire there. That's the left rear. So let's get that going next. And you just got to tackle one thing at a time and not look at all the rest of this stuff, you know. So we're gonna, here's our wire, our black and white coming off the turn signal, and this is going to go to VL, which is this back connector right here. You see, you read that right there. See, that's rear, and this one's forward, so that's the S. And so VL is back there. And so that to the front, wherever it might be, black and white, right there, and you know what I forgot? This goes up on the turn signal on the speedometer. Probably there's another one that goes on the from this one. So we've got another jumper we got to put up there for these. So I might have to take this apart. We have to think about that. Okay, there's another wire. This wire here goes to the back of the speedometer where the turn signal is, and I think I think that's what this is for. If I can find it again. I think I had it a long time ago. About 1,000 years ago. Why, yes indeedy, that is exactly what that is. That plugs into the back there so that 2 connectors can go on there, see? And so left or right, when you turn the signal on, aha, it lights it up. So we have to redo that harness, I think, and put a jumper for that. So let's get going on that. And I have a friend of mine who's coming over, and he's going to alleviate this mess, thank God, before I go mad, with a Honda Ruckus that he can't make run. And I had to look at it, and there's a good reason why it won't run. Is somebody's really got in there and boogered it up. So the first thing we need to look on the Ruckus is finding a key, but let's get back to the Volkswagen, make our harness, and get that done. Well, look what's coming. Alright.
You know what I figured out?
What's that?
When I was looking online at well, people customize them, this is the modern day Cushman Eagle.
The modern day Cushman Eagle, huh? You know the lights are crooked on this?
Yeah,
probably everything's crooked on it. Everything's all crooked on it, isn't it? Looks like somebody's been Bahaing it.
Probably. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, this is going to be a lot easier than... Yeah.
Then what, a Volkswagen?
Yeah, than that. It looks like... Oh, look at that's good. That's what you want to switch right there. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's great. Well, I think the first thing we're going to have to do is find your key. Okay, it kicks. That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
I wasn't going to bring it home unless it kicked.
All right. Well, I'm going to. I got online and I seen where they have underneath the back seat the behind the lock is the code, and I can get a key for it. And that's where we need to start, is a key, because somebody's already started on not having a key.
Yeah.
I think I have to take that off, and then it's behind the lock cylinder.
Okay. You can cut
So
it. Oh,
yeah, it'll be drilled on or something like that. So it won't be any big deal. I don't know much of a helmet lock you want or not anyway. So. Okay, all right. Well, I'll get started on it.
But I can keep my gun there.
All right. Honda Ruckus. Can't wait. Okay, I think I've got the spaghetti system nightmare figured out. I still have front parking lights to hook up here. I'll have to make a harness for it. And should be one coming off here somewhere. There it is right there. There it is right there. That one. And those go to the switch, I believe number 57. There's a couple of screw-ups I did here. I was assuming, and you know what happens when you assume. Yeah. Here's one of them. I just got to find the other. And I'll find it here in just a second. Wait a moment. Where is it? There it is. I had these as jumpers going off from the turn signals left and right together, plugged into that light up there. And what that would have done is it would have completed a circuit through both of them, so when I turned my turn signals on, all 4 of them would have come on. So don't just think. Look at the book. Okay. And the book says BL, and I don't have a BL, but I have a KBL, and the KBL goes to that center right there. Then also there's an S, which is this wire right here, and that's going to the other side of the pull-out switch for the flashers. Aside from front parking lights and grounds, doing a little something with these, I don't know, sorting and kind of massaging them so it's not such a cluster, we're finished. Now, will any of this work? No, of course not. Why would it? But like I said, in order, the angry pixies are not going to magically miracle themselves to the device. And so you'll have to run a wire. Whether or not that wire is good, bad, or indifferent, you know, I tested my lights, my turn signals on either side, run an ohm meter, and in fact I need to turn that off or it doesn't burn the battery up. And they do make continuity. However, on the left side I did have to take the insulation out and fidget with the wires. You know, there's going to be a lot of fidgeting and massaging in order to make all the devices on this work. And as I can recall, owning a Volkswagen, it was always like this. It seemed like a lot of massaging and fidgeting if the lights didn't work, or rolling a fuse or something like that. But I've got things pretty clean, and so I don't see why it wouldn't catch the whole harness on fire when I put a battery to it. I'm just joking. So grounds, you know, originally this car probably had plug-in grounds, had a single ground somewhere, and then it had them plugged in. Of course, this harness is from a 68, so I'll end up having to run sheet metal screws through the body. Well, what are you going to do, you know? I might get a ground, and you know, just one ground, like maybe up there where the and run wires down and connect them to, so I don't have to drill sheet metal screws through the body. So other than that, we should be done. So I can start putting fenders on finally. That way I can run the wiring harnesses, the grommets, and I can see that the lights work and that kind of thing, so we can move forward. Finally I can put my fenders on. And not too fast there, not too fast there. First thing I got to do is figure out this. It'll be a mashup. One day I'll work on this, the other day I'll work on that. So if I have time, probably now I'll get so busy with work I won't be able to work on both either. Ha! Okay. Well, thank you for wrenching with me. I'm sorry this video is so boring. The spaghetti system is very boring. What can I say? Get yourself a book, get the right diagram. Remember, it's always nice to have the right harness, but right next to you you've got the harness from the 69 that I pulled out partially, so you can, and there's not a lot of changes, there's not a lot of difference, and you know, for a driver you can make it where it'll work. So alright, thank you kindly, and thanks for watching, and have yourself a great rest of the day. See ya.